Well, welcome back to the second talk of this session. It gives me pleasure to introduce Mr. Malcolm Robinson. He was going to speak to us about Harvey's Gang, a story about a boy, now legend Harvey. Malcolm describes himself, and I don't think this is entirely correct at all, Malcolm, as a simple biomedical scientist of 40 years' experience. He's now the Chief of Blood Transfusion in the Western Sussex NHS Hospital FoundationTrust, which is based in Worthing, and he's the chair of the South Thames Transfusion Technical Advisory Discussion Group. Got that acronym right. Malcolm, through his leadership, has developed a formalised tour for young people of the pathology laboratories. His team has been mentioned 5 times in the CQC report for the outstanding findings of the trust he works in, a winner of the Kate Granger 2015 Team Award for Compassionate Care, 2016 Chief Scientific Officers Award for Patient and Public Participation. Malcolm.
Thank you. And thank you very much for your time and bearing with me. We have got the presentation, which we're having a few technical difficulties with. Right, okay. It's a piece of music to start with this form. It's called Proud. What have you done today to make yourself feel proud? I think coming to a seminar like this and then coming to my lecture, thank you very much, should make you feel proud that you're actually people who work in laboratories and deal with patients, and you should feel proud for everything that you do on a day-to-day basis. So, welcome. And thank you very much to the organisers for the very kind invitation to come and speak. It's very kind of you. I would like to tell you about a boy, and who I think is now a legend, and certainly will be by the time we finish spreading the word and spreading the love across the NHS. Where do I want us to go? I want us to go into the healthcare pathway of all children. This is Harvey. He was 6 years old, and he was a lovely young lad who felt a bit weak and felt a bit tired. In the South Downs, we don't get snow very often, and we had snow, and he went to the top of the hill and tobogganed down once, and he got to the bottom and he lay exhausted and didn't go anywhere. Now, for a 6-year-old boy who should theoretically be full of energy, that is not normal. So his parents brought him in and got some blood tests taken, and like all children, don't like blood tests, but we took them into lots of different tubes. And we took lots of samples, and he wondered why. Where do they go? Why do you test them so often? Where does all those samples go? Why? Why? When? Where does it go when it goes in the pod system? They arranged a tour, and Harvey came down to the laboratory and luckily met me, or I was the lucky one in fact. And we gave Harvey a tour of our laboratory. And we gave him a white coat, which was the smallest one we had. It went down nearly to the floor. We gave him a cardboard ID badge, so he had a recognition of a trainee scientist for the day. We gave him a goodie bag, which was a previous IBMS lecture bag that we managed to put some lab-cold penguins in and some pens, and then put a pen in his top pocket because all the laboratory scientists need pens in their pockets. And he went back away, proud as punch, wearing his white coat, back up to the ward. And that's the last I heard for a while. And I had a very memorable day. He met lots of staff around his journey, and they were able to explain why and what and when and how that we did what we did. I then received this thank you letter with a picture of Harvey and I, with a thank you letter from his mum, and Harvey actually signed it. That original letter is in my CBD folder. As part of the diagnosis, he required a bone marrow transplant, and this is Max, his 14-year-old brother, who was his bone marrow donor. And we shared care with the Royal Marsden. As we're in the theme of music, the music here really should be He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother. And this was all about him and I. And he'd gone up to the ward and everything else, and when he got back to the ward area, he was in his white coat. He got to the door to the ward and used his cardboard ID badge to get through. Doesn't work, does it? But the nurse saw him do that and press the button, and the doors opened. And that was the opening to his magical world of being a scientist. He went back to the ward and lorded it over doctors, because scientists do. He lorded it over the nurses, ordering them what to do and what to do. He locked them in cupboards. He could go away with murder, and he shared his story with all his fellow patients. We had shared care with the Royal Marsden, and he received his bone marrow transplant up at Royal Marsden. And he fought a valiant battle. He really did. He changed his blood group from AB neg to A neg, and we thought, well, this is actually fantastic. Everything's great. Unfortunately, it wasn't the end of the story. Harvey had his bone marrow transplant, everything went well, but unfortunately then that we saw him back, and by this time he was back with us, but for palliative care, and we were supporting him with transfusions of red cells and of platelets, and we shared care with the Royal Marsden throughout that to make sure that we had the special requirements. Unfortunately, Harvey lost his battle, and as part of that loss of battle, he went to the crematorium, where we had his last farewell. And in that farewell, they put that picture up and played this music. And I'm sorry. That's all I can handle of that. What did we learn? Well, he spent 291 days in hospital, and he received a bone marrow transplant, many transfusions, and we did well. Or did we? Did we really do well? Could have we learned from him and do better? Well, yes, of course we can on reflection. That's what we do. We can learn from these things. And at 8 years old, it was too early to lose his life. But whilst he was in that palliative care, we ordered platelets down to come down the following day, and he could have them the following day when they arrived. Is that acceptable? Not any longer. We need to get them down for him when he needs them. He needed time away from the hospital with his parents to spend good days outside of hospitals rather than being inside waiting on our protocols. So we've changed our practice. But our consultant paediatrician said to us, you know, Malcolm, you've got no idea what you did. And I went, no. He said, he talked about it all of the time. When he went to the Marsden, unfortunately at that time, didn't give laboratory tours. So he became the postman, and he went round twice a day with the post in his wheelchair, delivering post to everybody, trying to cheer everybody up. He was that type of lad. We thought, okay, what does that mean for us? He said, I've got another 7 kids that could do with a tour. I made a deal with the paediatrician not to go to any more funerals. He's got to get better at his job, and I will do more. And as scientists, we reflect on what we can do. We formed Harvey's Gang. And as part of that, we reflected on what we did. We needed a logo, so we've now got a logo, and we needed a certificate of attendance, so the youngster can actually remember that day forevermore and a day, and his parents have got a permanent reminder. We then launched it with Harvey's Gang. Now, originally we had white coats, which had on the picture was huge. Now we've got small ones. But the first one we got from the Early Learning Centre, we brought back, we used an old NHS threadbare sheet and made our own. And that's the way we started. We then had goodie bags. Well, we used the IBMS goodie bag to start with. Well, they're rare as hen's teeth, aren't they? So we needed more. So we got goodie bags ourselves. So we got Harvey's Gang goodie bags. Ortho Clinical Diagnostics, bless them, actually sponsored them. And then we launched. This was the official launch, and we had a previous visitor, William, who came in on 31st of October 2014, and he came in with this after going to the health area and getting Halloweened with the spiders. And then we had Francesca launch it with the BBC and an official launch of Harvey's Gang. And we launched it and named our ortho blood grouping analyzer, the Vision, which was the first in the world, and we've named it Harvey. It's still known in Strasbourg via the e-connectivity as Harvey, and it's not known by its J serial number. We started at Worthing doing more tours, and then we went out to Chichester, our sister site, and we started telling people about that, and I was honoured to win 2 awards, and then one locally as well. We were mentioned 5 times in our CQC report as outstanding, as exemplary service. Nobody talks in CQC reports usually about laboratories unless it's non-conformances. So we went over to Chichester and we took Toby. Toby was a heart valve failure, and we took him around in a wheelchair and he saw all areas of the laboratory. And we learnt from these tours as well. At the time when we took Toby around, we didn't understand that we actually all needed white coats. We were more concerned about his welfare than our own and everybody else. So we've changed. This is Rayanne, she's a sickle cell anemia. I talk about health and safety, but this young lady went back to the ward afterwards, still in her white coat, and ate dinner in a white coat, and had the transfusion still with a white coat on. She wouldn't take it off. And then we had so many more youngsters come around that we had to do more. These 2 beautiful young ladies are 5-year-old twins, both with identical neuroblastomas. How cruel is life? They had a fantastic tour, actually feeling the bag of platelets they'd regularly had a transfusion on. Nobody had ever done that to them. It was normally check with their mum that the details were correct and hang them up and give them to the patient. They didn't actually feel any of the products. And kids are inquisitive, touchy-feely, and see what it's about. But they also meant monkey. Monkey goes around hospitals, and you may come across this in areas of cystic fibrosis and asthma, and now surgery and dentistry. But now we have got together with Monkey because my biggest fear is that people don't get a tour and it's going to be too late. So we've actually started a film. This is Charlotte. Charlotte was an unusual patient and had no thyroid gland. She was born without a thyroid gland, but she needed thyroxine on a regular basis, which is toxic. So she needs regular blood tests. But at 8 years old, because she was so needle phobic and panicky about the sample, she turned around to her mum and said, "Enough, I'm not having any more samples taken, thank you very much." And mum turned around and said, "Well, if you don't, Charlotte, you'll die." And Charlotte turned around and said, "Well, that's better than having a needle stuck in me, thank you very much." That's not acceptable. We gave her the tour. She's pictured there with pathology being pointed out by her, and in her other hand is her samples. She came into the laboratory with her ID badge. She sat on the MLA's knee, put a barcode on the sample, took it over to the track, put it on the track system, and grabbed the chemist's hand and walked around the department with the chemist watching her samples being processed. The only tears that day were her mum's and mine. We've had numerous more tours, and then we went out and we spread the love, as they say, and we went over to Ashford, and Angela Green took Caitlin around at Ashford. And this is Caitlin. She's actually won a Good Morning Britain award, presented to by Peter Andre de Fleuris and Pixie Lott, for her work that she does for her Ewing sarcoma group of patients. Absolutely phenomenal. Nothing for herself, but for others. She had known Harvey from the Royal Marsden, and when she went around the laboratory at Ashford, they knew she was coming, and they actually grew her name in chromogenic agar, which for any youngster or even an adult, that's phenomenal. Really great to see. Daniel at King's College Hospital, 7 years old. He's had 47 units of blood by that time. He's now over to 70. But at that time, it was 47. He was only 7 years old, and that was for sickle cell anemia. He gave us a thank you card, and that said, "I've always wanted to be a scientist," and therefore, hopefully, he will do one day. This was Toby. We were monitoring his progress. This was him at Goodwood Revival. So he's still around and still looking cool. We've gone and we learnt that actually we should be wearing white coats, and now there's evidence that we do. And as I say, the youngsters put smiles on everybody's faces, because who can be sad when you've got a youngster that's going through all these illnesses and they've got a smile? You know, we've got to be cheerful about it. Then we launched at Southampton, and this is the Ortho Vision Max with Michael, and we launched it there. I became a trainee scientist for the day, and we did paper chromatography in the chemistry laboratory, which was fantastic for me because I hadn't got a clue how to do it. Then we went out again. This is Taunton, a match down with IPP, and they've taken it up in Taunton with a number of tours, and then back to Southampton. And then we registered Harvey's Gang as a charity. We've gone out now to say, actually, let's do this and share it. Let's share the knowledge, let's share how to do it, let's give people the tools to take these tours into their own laboratories. So that's where we're at. And then we had a person who could write for youngsters, join a child, come round on a tour. And this is the child's version of a tour. and this is Harvey's gang, and apparently I am the giant, who is quite scary in the story. However, at the end of it, I get a thank you, and I'm not quite so scary. We then have gone out, and we've gone to Dundee, so we're in Scotland now, and we've got numbers of tours in Scotland, and it shows you what a small world is, because this gentleman pictured here was also in the Navy as well. And we've got numbers of tours with equipment, and as you can see, both the children and the adults have got smiles on their faces. It's a fantastic day for everybody. You feel 9 foot tall, and your chest and your heart is pumping at the end of that day. And how can you not smile when you see a picture like that, where even the smallest white coat we've got is still too big? So we've got numbers of tours. Where do we want this to go? Well, I want it to go globally. I want it to be part of healthcare pathway for all children. And that's where I would love this to be one day. We are now in 21 Trust Live and another 29 by Christmas. And with the thanks to everybody who's visited me over the last 3 days now, we've got potential another 18 sites, which is fantastic. And we end up with pictures of youngsters that cheer our day. So what does it mean to the patient? Well, it explains what we do with their samples, why we do those samples, how often we do those samples, why do we take samples every 3 days for transfusion purposes for a child. We can explain all of that. The parents have got questions. Last week the sample was urgent. It took 2 weeks to get that sample back. The last sample was urgent. It took 2 hours. Why was it 2 hours when the week before, when it wasn't urgent, it was back in an hour? We're able to explain all of that. Well, it comes in the afternoon, it's with all the GP workload, it all gets queued, everything slows down. But at least we're able to show that. What does it mean to our staff? Well, for us, it means actually our woes of life aren't as bad as what we might think they are. You know, everything in the world is weighing us down. You know, if we look at what's happening, we've got Donald Trump one end and we've got North Korea at the other. We're just ducking and diving in the middle. Actually, let's get real. It's about these youngsters coming around. That's life. That's what we should be worried about. And we put ourselves back in the box and actually concentrate on our patients. And so we're able to go out. Here we've got a family with a genetic disorder. They all have blood tests regularly and they all want to know. So we took the family around. And we've got lab coats that actually fit all 3 sizes. Youngsters, hearts of gold. This young man read the book from David Walliams about raising money and pocket money. But he didn't want pocket money, he wanted to raise it for Harvey's Gang. The local council were opening a park, so he decided to bake cakes for that, a park opening. He wrote to the council, and how could a council ever say no to a letter like that? And so they said yes, he raised 66 quid. Fantastic. Then we went to Great Ormond Street. And again, this is Toby, and Toby went to Great Ormond Street and launched it there. He came round with us, if you remember, in a wheelchair. Since then he's had a temporary heart valve placed at Great Ormond Street and he's able to walk some more now, but he's still waiting for that heart transplant. But we had a fantastic day at Great Ormond Street. The coagulation team there actually put a coagulation pathway together out of rubber tubing and marble. So you've got the intrinsic and extrinsic pathway that goes through the different factors all the way down. If I'm honest, after 40 years, that's the first time the coagulation pathways have made any sense. And we were able to share. But at Harvey's Gang at Great Ormond Street, they won the poster of the month for the teams within Great Ormond Street. They won the front cover and the centre spread within their monthly magazine. Then we went out, and because of Taunton's work, it was on the BBC, this then went to Filton. Now this is Ben. Ben was in Gloucester. He's got Down syndrome, a 13-year-old boy with Down syndrome, but he's also got Moya syndrome, which is Japanese for a puff of smoke, and he's had 2 strokes. And he's absolutely petrified of needles and samples being taken. He's got to be completely anaesthetised to get that, so he gets thyroxine levels taken. Here he's pictured going around with Ruth, around Filton, around all the areas, holding the products, feeling them. And then he went into the car park, bless him. And he's pictured here in the urgent delivery vehicle with the blue lights going and the sirens. And the biggest noise you could get on there is his laughter. Which is why his cousin has got his ears plugged, because his laughter was raucous, because he loved what he did. He now has no problems getting samples taken. Again, more youngsters, and they fit. I was very fortunate. We won the Kate Granger Award, and I actually met my heroine, who was Dr. Kate Granger, who was fighting cancer, and she explained that to her as a GP, fighting cancer is scary. No control whatsoever. And she turned up, undergoing chemotherapy, and presented an award. I wasn't expecting that, and that's why I look a wreck, as usual. It's quite emotional to stand there and talk to people like this that you're in awe of, because they go that extra mile and do amazing things. We won the local Star Award, which I was very proud of, that I've been recognised by the Trust, and our play specialist has actually put together a record of all of the tours that we've done locally, so I'm very proud of that. Here is a picture of our team at Worthing, and for me, I've got to thank people, because without people, we cannot go forward. And people have been so generous with their time to produce Harvey's Gang, to help with the goodie bags, help with the white coats, the penguins that go into them, clinicians for places like the stand that they've done for us today, and for Matthew Foraker, and also to Scott Blood, BGS Reading, and obviously additionally the IBMS for allowing me to speak today. Where are we? Well, these are the trusts that we're in at the moment, which is getting bigger by the day, and whenever this presentation is put, it's probably out of date. Where are we going? Well, these are new trusts that are really interested to get going, not quite there yet. But also, we're in pharmacy. We've gone out, they don't see patients either. So we went out, and in the goodie bag of this young man was a prescription. And so with his ID badge, he was able to go into pharmacy. They allowed him to come in. They don't see patients. He went in, he met the robot. He wandered in his barcode onto the robot, and out came a box of Maltesers to be taken as required. And, you just end up with a fuzzy feeling. This was Michael when we launched at Southampton. And more recently, here's another big kid. Now, Yvonne is stage 4 cancer, and it didn't worry so much about the cancer as she did about samples being taken. And she's had that fear since she was 8 years old. So she's wearing my lab coat, and she has my lab coat now because she went away with it. And she has overcome her fear of samples, which has got to be a great success. But it goes back to being a child. And this is Michael now. He co-presented with me in Glasgow 2 weeks ago, and a fantastic speaker. He had to stand next to the lectern because you couldn't actually see him over the top of the lectern. I'll leave that slide up there if you want to take pictures, because that is all of contact details of everything that we do. Follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, and once again, thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for the invitation to speak.
Thank you very much, Malcolm. Are there any questions?
It's not a question, it's more an observation, and we get used to people in pathology saying they're too busy to train, too busy to do this, that and the other, because of the pressures, but clearly the effort that goes into this is tremendous. And it's the fact that people buy into it. Brilliant.
Yeah, I mean the feel-good factor that all the staff get out of it means that it's worthwhile. Yeah, we get so much out of it. It makes us feel better in ourselves. We work that extra half hour that we might have wasted during the day for one of these tours, and we feel better because we're dealing with patients once again, as opposed to just processing sample numbers.
I've got a couple of questions. Absolutely amazing the things that you've done, and there must be a lot of work goes into this that you've not really described in detail, because you've been the fantastic outcomes. What about things like doing the risk assessments and so on? Is there a sort of standard format for that? How easy is that to do?
Okay. The idea is that we've got all of the information, so we've done the risk assessments all on editable format with our trust logo in. I will share that with the new site They take our logo out, put their logo in, change the date, go through the risk assessment, make sure they're happy, add anything that they're missing, and then share it for the next trust so it's that much better. But it's a case of doing it once and sharing. And it's about the application form that goes to the family. It tells the family about what Harvey's Gang is about, why we're doing it, etc. But there's an application form that comes back to us, tells us about the child, any specific worries or concerns they've got, any fears they want to overcome. But it also additionally gives us the size of the person if we get the right size of white coat.
So anyone who's thinking of taking this on, essentially you've got a kit ready for them to pick up and run with. So it's really,
it's all ready to go. I've got a how-to-do document, who to contact, so your play specialists, your paediatrics, the trust security department for the trust ID badge. So you get the ID badges done so they can actually go away with a proper "Hello, my name is" ID badge with the Harvey's Gang logo in the picture slot.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And how much do the kits cost when you're there's a goodie bag and the coat and so on? What's the sort of
Free of
cost?
charge.
No, sorry, to produce. I mean, or is it all sponsored?
It's sponsored. Ortho give us the goodie bags, Labcog give us the penguins, I beg, borrow and steal pens from anybody I can, and the white coats cost us as a charity, but they're part sponsored by a bank, Handelsbanken, and then we send those to the new site for them to do. It doesn't cost them anything. I will hope over time they will do local fundraising to try and support it and also advertise that they're actually doing it. And sharing the stories locally will get you and your NHS trust more local advertisement of what a good job your trust does, and it's all positive press as opposed to any negative.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, do you ever have the adults want to come out?
As I say, Yvonne Newbold was 58, and yes, she did. We used to do adults occasionally, we don't so much, but there's no reason why this can't roll out to adults as well. No reason whatsoever.
It's a fantastic way of spreading knowledge about what we do lives, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all about breaking those barriers down, so we are working behind no walls or glass doors, so people can see us, and it puts us on the map that the healthcare is not just about doctors and nurses, it's about laboratory workers and specific biomedical scientists.
And this is a great way of communicating that as well. So in addition to the benefits that the actual children are getting, the staff are getting, there's that wider understanding of what pathology is as this message is promulgated.
It is, and it helps with staff retention. It helps with sickness levels. We've got no staff vacancies at the moment. We've all trained up. We have no locums. There's not many trusts can actually say that. Our staff get so much out of this that they do not want to go elsewhere.
If there are no more questions, I'd like to say thank you very much again, Malcolm, for giving us an opportunity to see this fantastic work. Thank you very much.
Thank you.